Hey everyone, you can see here I've created a logic-based timer that counts down from 10 seconds to 0 in this case. This one I've styled in a way to make it kind of look like, I guess it's the entry to a door or a safe. We've got a metal background, page background put in here. I've styled the block to be this kind of light grey with some dark shadow at the bottom here. It looks like it's kind of three-dimensional. Rounded edges, the component, which is this one, you can see has been styled to be black and match the rounded edges, and I've put a little light edge on here again to make it look three-dimensional. This is just a text component with the text styled with a font that looks a bit digital and a color that looks a bit digital. And of course, because it's Evolve, you can style it to look good on different devices. So that was tablet and mobile. But if you go back to here, then of course you can style it in different ways. And here's another way to style it. This one is a bit more kind of space futuristic, heads-up display-esque thing. So just some graphics in the top. You can see it counted down from 10 to 0 there again, rather than a little GIF that I made in After Effects just to give it a bit more life. So yeah, now you might think, well, what's the purpose of this? And it gets to 0, then what happens? Well, of course, you can take this and put it into an interaction. So how might you use this? We have a setup here, set on a space station using the space heads-up theme. You're a comms officer on a space station, your colleague is out, proximity alarms are flashing, something's racing towards him. Would you like this moment to be timed, simulating the pressure of a real emergency? And I've given the choice of switching the timer off or switching the timer on, which can obviously be good for reducing cognitive load on your learners, but things like this might be useful in situations where you're creating learning for people who have high pressure situations, maybe the medical or emergency services. So that could be a way to help people try it out without the timer if you wanted to as well. But let's see what happens if we click let's do it. So begin. You can see here the timer starts going. I have a GIF here of Ramos out on his spacewalk, a little bit more information. This is just an MCQ, but if you don't answer in time, game over, man. The alien got him. Okay. If you're familiar with the Alien movies, then I'm sure you understand that line. And if you click on try again, it resets the timer and you can go again. And the beauty of Evolve, as we've said, is it looks good on tablet, as you can see here. And we can see the alien pop up, game over, man. And we can also put it into mobile. And everything fits beautifully on the screen. It's all responsive. And we still get the same experience on different devices. So what does it look like in the back end, and how did I set up that radio group? How do I get the timer to work? Let's take a look. So here we are in the back end of Evolve. We're going to concentrate on this page, Space HUD Interaction. These other two pages are the timers I showed you at the beginning of the video, but I'm going to concentrate on the interaction page, which is here. Obviously there's a number of things in there to make the page look good. If you want to have a copy of this course, please just send me a direct message on LinkedIn and I will send you over a copy, or if you have an email, you could always email me as well. The first thing you're going to need to do to make the timer work is to set up some logic, and you need to add in some variables. You'll need 3 variables for this particular interaction. Countdown seconds, you can call it whatever you want, but I'll call it countdown seconds, is a number. I've set the default value to 10. That's the 10 seconds that we get. You could set that to 20 or 30 or 40. It doesn't really matter. It's how long you want people to have that interaction for. Static seconds, what is that? So we've got string for that one. And at the minute, there's no value in there whatsoever. We want it to be blank because when the seconds get to 9, it creates that 0. If that wasn't there, it would be 1 digit less. We don't want that. We want to make it stay looking like a timer. So we need something called static seconds. I'll show you the logic to change that to a 0, but we need the default value to be blank. And timer, which is also a string, and the default value for that is also blank because we're going to use the radio group to set that to on or off to decide whether or not the timer stays on or off. So triggers. Before we do that, let's have a look at the timer itself. So this is the timer. It's just a text component. Just this one here. You can see that there. But in the general setting in the body, I've just written in 00 colon, and then I've put in variables. How do you put in variables? So if I click into my body text there, I can insert variable, and I can choose a variable to insert. And in this case, countdown seconds. I don't need that. I'm going to delete it away. But that's how you add in a variable. So I've got 00 colon, no space, static seconds, no space, countdown seconds. So when that's first in there, countdown seconds starts counting down. I'll show you the logic to make that happen. Static seconds is a default value of nothing, and then it changes to 0, and I'll show you how to do that as well. But that's how you enter variables into there. So the triggers, we've got timer start. We need to get the timer starting. We need to get it going initially, and we do that by setting up some logic to help that happen. So I've got, in this case, I've got components completed, because a text component in Evolve, once you've viewed it, it's basically complete. So I guess you could put components viewed, but I've put components completed because as soon as it opens, then we know it's completed and it will start. You might not always load the page. You could put it as page load, but when I hit my try again button, I'm not reloading the page, I'm just reopening the component from being hidden. So I need it to be components completed or potentially components viewed. And I'm going to decrease the variable countdown seconds by 1. But this is important bit, 1000 milliseconds, which is a second. So obviously it takes a second to change. Now that got it started, but how do we keep it going? So I've got another piece of logic called timer continue, where if the variable countdown seconds, we don't do any comparisons, has changed, which it will from this first bit of logic, then we keep going. Decrease the variable value by 1, wait 1000 milliseconds. So when it changes from that first bit of logic, this keeps it going, and it keeps, of course, changing and triggering this and changing and triggering this. So that's how you get the timer. That's the first logic, and it keeps moving down, and that gives us our timer. So this first seconds digit is giving that 0 to come in there. So we want it to come in when 10 turns to 9. So when the countdown seconds is equal to 9, so we put in a comparison, we set the variable text, static seconds, to 0. So that when it changes, we get that 0 to keep it looking like a timer. So that's how we keep that looking like that. Now when it gets to 0, we don't want it to keep going and do -1 and -2, so we have to stop it. So the variables change, countdown seconds, and when it's equal to 0, we disable the trigger timer continue, which is this one. Now in my interaction, when the timers get to 0, it hides all this and brings the alien in. So again, because this is logic based, we can get it to do that. So some things are hidden and revealed. So it doesn't just disable the trigger, it hides the articles, which has the interaction in the MCQ, and it shows hidden blocks, alien, game over man, and try again. But one thing it also does is it sets the variables, countdown seconds and variable text, back to their original values. Because if we don't do that, then it's going to be 0 and 0. So it won't reset. So it's reset there. And then when the person clicks try again, we could show the articles that were hidden, the interaction in the MCQ, and we hide alien, game over man, and try again. But we also need to reset the component, the timer, so that it's kind of completed again from the first bit, and we enable the trigger again because we disabled it here. We need to enable the timer, the trigger timer continue for it to keep going. So there we go, and it's all working. The last bit of logic is timer on and timer off. So when we go to the beginning of this one, we have a radio group, which is set up in the back end of Evolve to have 2 options. Yes, let's do it, no thanks. When you click on yes, let's do it, it sets the option value to on, no thanks, off. And that is just setting that variable timer to something, because at the minute it's nothing. And if we go into the logic, into the trigger, timer on, if the variable changes variable timer and it's equal to on, hide the timer and show the MCQ. If it's off, hide the article, timer on, off, and show the MCQ and make sure there's no timer. So we get the timer coming on and timer coming off. So I get the timer, and if I did it the other way, then I have no timer. I just get this graphic in. And that is pretty much that. So obviously you could set it up and style it in any way you liked to make it look in different situations, like in different e-learning. As I've said, if you want to have a copy of the course, then I can send it off to you. If you send me a private message or an email, then I can give you the course and you can play around with that, or you can try it yourself. If you get the course, then you can obviously see the theme settings I did to get it to look like this and like this. So you can, might be easier for you if you want to play around and see what you've got. And of course, when you get the course, you'll get all the logic and all the variables. So that could be worth trying it out as well. So yeah, if you want to get really clever, you could put in variables for minutes as well. So you could have a longer timer, or you could have it count up and complete the course after a certain amount of time. Yeah, you can do that as well. So yeah, if you let me know how you get on with it, and if you need any help, let me know.